What if everything is still paused because you're trying to think your way into a reality that only reacts to how you feel? This is the biggest misconception about manifestation in its most popular form. The idea that knowledge causes transformation, that if you simply understand enough, think positively enough, or repeat affirmations enough, your life will align. But the universe doesn't respond to what you know. It mirrors what you embody. What you sense in your nervous system is already true. That's the central message of this video. Every version of reality is false until you feel it's real. Let that sink in. Your future, the one where you're already loved, already thriving, already free, doesn't appear because you study it or believe in it. It becomes tangible the moment your emotions sync with it. The instant your inner world stops waiting for evidence and starts living in presence. Because the quantum field doesn't react to words. It reacts to alignment. Coherence is when your thoughts and emotions speak the same language. When your mind isn't saying abundance while your heart still murmurs, "I'm unsafe." When your body isn't vibrating with anxiety while your lips affirm, "I trust life." That's not harmony. That's inner conflict. And the field mirrors the strongest signal, not the most inspiring thought. This is why so many people say, "I've done all the shadow work, but nothing's changing." Because on the outside, yes, they've made effort, but underneath, the emotion is still anchored in the past, still wired to the familiar tension of who they were. And emotion, not intention, is what turns potential into form. You don't manifest what you say. You don't manifest what you understand. You manifest what you feel is already real. So what are you truly feeling most of the day? If you're still wishing, still second-guessing, still scanning reality for proof, then your dominant frequency is still rooted in waiting. And waiting carries the energy of distance, of not yet, of almost. And the universe responds accordingly. Here's what no one tells us. Emotion isn't just a reaction, it's an instruction. When you feel from fear, you strengthen the version of life where fear makes sense. When you feel from joy before the reason appears, you step into the reality where joy is already deserved. Neville Goddard called this living in the end. He didn't mean pretending, he meant feeling so deeply into the chosen reality that your body, your breath, your vibration can't tell the difference between that and now. Not because you're deceiving yourself, but because the field demands that depth of certainty to respond. So let's be fully honest. If you're still waiting for your life to change so you can feel different, you're trapped in repetition. You're letting your emotions depend on proof. But in the quantum field, it's the emotion that produces the proof. This is why some people manifest with ease, not from luck or privilege, but because they've trained their emotional system to lead reality instead of following it. They feel the outcome first, and then reality adjusts to match. And you can too. In the next chapter, we'll explore the precise science behind this. You'll see how emotion becomes the language the quantum field recognizes, and why your body acts as the bridge between dream and material world. We'll decode what it truly means to feel it real, and how to use emotion as a refined instrument to shift timelines. But for now, ask yourself, what emotions am I constantly, subconsciously, and habitually recycling that keep me tied to the reality I claim to want to leave? Because until the feeling changes, you're just reperforming the same play with slightly different lines. You've been taught that thoughts create your world, but that's only part of the truth. Because a thought without emotion is like a radio signal without electricity. It exists, but it doesn't transmit. It doesn't carry power. It doesn't move energy or mold matter. It doesn't speak to the field. But when a thought merges with feeling, genuine, embodied, coherent feeling, it becomes a broadcast. And that broadcast is what transforms quantum possibility into physical experience. Emotion isn't just a reaction. It's a signal, a vibrational frequency that sends instructions to the field. In the quantum realm, where everything exists as waves until it's observed, it's emotion that collapses those waves into particles, into tangible experience. You don't observe with your eyes, you observe with your state. And your state is constantly being shaped by what you feel, not merely by what you think. This is why emotion is never secondary. It's the selector. It's what tells the quantum intelligence of the universe which version of reality you're currently tuned into. Let's go deeper into the science. Every thought you have generates a chemical message. If that thought is neutral, the chemistry is faint, a background hum. But when a thought is infused with emotion, especially potent ones like joy, fear, gratitude, or shame, it triggers a cascade of hormones, neurotransmitters, and electromagnetic signals. This doesn't just alter your body, it transforms your field. According to Dr. Joe Dispenza, when your heart and brain achieve coherence, meaning emotional alignment, your electromagnetic field becomes measurable, structured, and expansive. You're no longer simply a body, you're a beacon. And what you radiate in that state begins to shape your next experience. Bruce Lipton expands on this further. He reveals that your emotional condition directly influences your biology. Genes switch on or off depending on your prevailing emotional tone. You're not just feeling for spiritual self-care, you're reprogramming your cells, your neural activity, your destiny. And that's only part of it. Emotion carries direction. When you feel something intensely, your energy doesn't stay confined within you, it projects outward, radiating through the field. Think of it as a sonar pulse, bouncing off the quantum fabric and returning with a match. That match might appear as a conversation, an opening, a challenge, or even a miracle. But it didn't manifest because you thought about it hard enough. It appeared because you felt it deeply enough. This is what Neville Goddard meant by, feeling is the secret. He wasn't speaking metaphorically, he was describing the mechanism. Feeling is the verification that tells your subconscious, and therefore the field, that a thought is real. The field mirrors you, not your goals, not your affirmations, not your idealistic visions, but your energetic signature. And that signature is driven by one force, emotion. But not just fleeting emotion, your emotional baseline, the feeling you default to when you're not trying. That's what the field responds to. That's what your body broadcasts every single moment. Not the peaks when you declare, I am grateful, but the underlying tone of your inner atmosphere. Are you vibrating from scarcity or sufficiency, from waiting or from certainty, from tension or from peaceful knowing? Because whatever you feel most often is the reality your system synchronizes with. And the field doesn't argue, it doesn't care what you wish to feel, it reflects what you actually hold. Here's the real shift. You don't need more spiritual hacks or mental tricks. You need emotional alignment. You don't need to force better thoughts. You need to embody the truth of your new self now. And you don't need proof to feel it, you need to feel it to produce the proof. This isn't fantasy, it's function. It's the way quantum potential crystallizes into physical form. And the bridge between energy and matter is you, your body, your heart, your nervous system. That's the mechanism. That's the transmitter. Your feelings are not fluff. They're the code that reality listens to. They are the dashboard, the control panel of your timeline. So the question becomes, what emotion are you most faithful to? And is that emotion anchoring you in the past or pulling you forward into the future? In the next chapter, we'll uncover how most of us are emotionally trapped, not by what's happening now, but by what once happened. You'll see how your body stores old vibrations and keeps replaying outdated timelines. Not because you're broken, but because you haven't yet taught it a new emotional code. And once you do, everything shifts. It's one of the most maddening things in life. Knowing exactly what you want, taking action to evolve, setting new intentions, and still looping back into the same habits, same outcomes, same emotional states. You start to wonder, what am I missing? The answer is rarely about your vision, your plan, or even your mindset. It's about your emotional memory. Most people aren't living in the present moment. They're existing in an emotional echo, replaying sensations from 5, 10, or 20 years ago. Not by choice, but because their body learned those states so well they became comfortable. And what's comfortable becomes home, even when it hurts. This is what we call emotional inversion, the habit of feeling from the past while trying to create a new tomorrow. You want to shift timelines, but your nervous system is still tuned to yesterday's wounds, the betrayal, the failure, the heartbreak. So your subconscious whispers, this is who I am. This is how I feel. This is what's safe. And the field listens, not to your hopes, but to what you've rehearsed feeling. Because here's a truth few confront. You're not feeling what's real, you're making real what you feel. The instant your body slips into a familiar emotion, stress, anxiety, frustration, or unworthiness, it emits a signal. That signal becomes your vibrational address. And life, like a cosmic GPS, directs experiences toward you based on that signal. You don't attract what's good, you attract what's active. And for most people, what's most active is still the past. You wake up thinking about your dreams, but your emotions are still tied to yesterday's argument, last month's disappointment, or that old childhood script whispering, "I always get it wrong." So even when you visualize a brighter future, your body is transmitting a conflicting message, one that negates your desire. That's why familiar patterns keep repeating. Not because you're cursed, but because your frequency hasn't evolved. You're broadcasting the same identity while hoping for a new one. And the quantum field doesn't reward effort, it mirrors alignment. If your heart still beats with old emotion, the field still delivers the old reality. Both neuroscience and spirituality agree on this. Your body can't tell the difference between an emotion triggered by a memory and one caused by a real event. When you relive an emotional moment, even in imagination, your brain fires the same neurons, your body releases the same chemicals, and your field emits the same vibration. So you're not reacting to the present, you're reliving the past and calling it now. This is the emotional prison that keeps people looping. And the most deceptive part? Feels normal. Because your identity has molded itself around those emotions. Your sense of self depends on them. So when something positive happens, a part of you rejects it, not because you don't want it, but because it doesn't match your energetic signature. It doesn't feel safe. You resist. You stall. You delay. Not consciously, but emotionally. That's why the most powerful transformation isn't creating a new vision board or repeating more affirmations. It's breaking the emotional cycle that says, "This is just how I feel." Because that feeling isn't truth. It's a program, and programs can be rewritten. But it demands a new discipline, not mental but emotional. You must become more devoted to the emotion of the future than the comfort of the past. You must train your body to experience the new timeline before it arrives. That's the inversion we're here to reverse. You've been waiting for a new life to spark a new feeling. But the quantum reality is, you must feel the new life to invite it in. Not once, not when convenient, but every day, deliberately, intentionally, in advance. And that's exactly what we'll practice in the next chapter, where you'll discover a powerful emotional ritual that teaches your body to embody the version of you you've been calling in, right now. But before we move forward, ask yourself, what emotions have I normalized that no longer belong to the version of me I'm becoming? And am I willing to release the emotional past, even if it's familiar, to finally feel the future? Because once you do, reality has no choice but to follow. There's a hidden doorway between where you are and where you want to be. It doesn't open through logic, effort, or desire. It opens when your body begins to experience the future as if it's already here. When your nervous system stops waiting for proof and starts broadcasting belief. When emotion stops being a memory and becomes a magnet. This is the moment where timelines realign. Not because something outside transformed, but because you did. And that's what this chapter is about. Not another theory, but a living ritual to awaken your new frequency. One that doesn't require you to pretend, push, or wish hard enough. Only to feel intentionally, to collapse a new version of yourself not by imagining harder, but by feeling deeper. Because here's the quantum truth. The field doesn't react to what you think you deserve. It mirrors what you emotionally accept as ordinary. And if you're still waiting for the world outside to shift before you allow yourself to feel different, you're delaying the transformation. You're pushing your timeline further away. But when you start to pre-feel, when you teach your body how it feels to be free, in love, complete, now, you're signaling to the quantum field that this version of you already exists. And because the field responds to vibration, not time, it begins to organize matter around that frequency. This isn't pretending, it's programming. And here's how you begin. Sit somewhere calm. Close your eyes. Bring your awareness to your heart center, not to analyze but to sense. Choose the version of reality you want to experience as real. Be specific. Not just, I want abundance, but I am living in balance, peace, and flow. Not, I want love, but I feel secure, chosen, and valued. Now release the words. Move into the sensation. Not the thought of having it, but the embodied feeling of being it. Ask your body, what would it feel like to already live this way? Let the emotion rise gently. Don't force it. Wait for your body to respond. You may sense warmth, softness, expansion. Let it spread. Increase it slowly. Breathe with that emotion. Smile into it. Let it fill every part of you. Not to persuade, but to remember. Repeat quietly. I feel it real now. Stay here for a few moments. Let your body imprint this state. Let it become natural. Let it feel safe. When you're ready, open your eyes. Move through your day from this upgraded version of yourself. This practice isn't just energetic, it's neurological. Each time you feel from the future instead of reacting from the past, you build new pathways in the brain, a new set point in your heart, a fresh vibrational code in your field. And repetition is what anchors it in. The goal isn't to feel perfect, it's to feel intentionally. To stay emotionally devoted to the version of you that already exists, even when your current world hasn't caught up yet. Because eventually it will. Your task isn't to watch the clock, your task is to keep the signal alive. And the more you maintain that frequency, not occasionally but as a lifestyle, the quicker your external world begins to reshape. People evolve. Opportunities appear. Creativity flows. Not because you forced results, but because you became the source. You didn't wait for the future, you felt it first. And the field had no choice but to reflect it back. So now it's your turn. Right now, not later, not someday. Sink into that emotion. And when it lands, even faintly, let that be your new baseline. Let that be your new energetic code. Comment below, I feel it real now. Let it be your declaration, your frequency imprint, your signal to both the field and yourself that the shift has already begun. In the next chapter, we'll uncover what unfolds after the shift, how timelines respond to sustained emotional coherence, and why your consistent feeling state is the most powerful instrument you have for stepping into a higher version of reality. But for now, don't just think the future, feel it now. Stay tuned because there's still much more waiting in this video. There's a version of you right now already living the reality you've been trying to manifest. Not a metaphor, not a someday, but a literal energetic version existing within the quantum field. That version doesn't wrestle with belief. They don't repeat affirmations for proof. They don't question whether it's arriving. For them, it's ordinary. It's happening now. And the only distance between you and that version is emotion. Because in the quantum world, timeline shifting isn't about doing extra work. It's not about visualizing harder or meditating endlessly. It's about energetic harmony. Timelines don't react to thoughts alone. They attune to what you feel as truth. That feeling becomes the selector, the activator, the code that unlocks the door between the you who's close and the you who's already there. Let's make this tangible. Every version of your reality vibrates with its own signature frequency. That energy isn't determined by outside appearances, but by inner sensation. The you who thrives in abundance isn't just surrounded by wealth. They feel calm, open-handed, deserving. The you who experiences deep love doesn't just meet the right partner. They feel protected, trusting, radiant. The field doesn't deliver what you desire. It grants access to the timelines that resonate with your signal. So, the real inquiry is, what emotions are you rehearsing daily? Not the ones you want to feel, but the ones you keep replaying. If you still wake in subtle anxiety, still scan your world for evidence, still swing between faith and fear, then those emotions are aligning you with realities where that state feels normal. Not because you're broken, but because you're consistent. And consistency is the language the field listens to. Your main emotional frequency becomes your energetic home, and your home defines your reality. This explains why people who secretly feel unworthy while manifesting often repel what they claim to seek. Their intention says yes, but their feeling says no. And the quantum field, ever faithful, echoes the no because it's the dominant vibration. This is the missing piece for most who try to transform their reality. They believe they must reinvent themselves completely. But the truth is simpler. You only need to feel like the version of you who already has it. Not flawlessly, not constantly, but often enough for your body to believe it's safe, and for your field to register the signal. Here's the process. When you embody a new emotion, you transmit a new frequency. That signal loops back as feedback. The more you sustain the feeling, the more visible proof begins to form. As evidence appears, belief strengthens. And belief isn't the cause, it's the reflection that you've matched the vibration. Emotion bridges the space between possibility and embodiment. It's not reflection, it's access. This is where the real transformation begins, when you realize you don't have to wait for conditions to grant you a feeling. You can choose the feeling now deliberately. And the instant you do, you start merging with that new timeline. The new you doesn't arrive, you meet them halfway. Think of emotion as a passcode. Each timeline requires an entry key, and that key is always emotional, never mental, never theoretical. You can intellectually understand every concept about abundance yet never experience it because your body hasn't been allowed to feel abundant. You're holding the key but refusing to turn it. So, how do you shift timelines? You stop demanding proof. You begin embodying the emotion. You become emotionally devoted to the version of you already living the dream, not through performance but through repeated choice until your body forgets the old identity. And when it finally does, something magical occurs. You no longer crave the shift, it finds you. You stop looking for reflection, and the mirror begins to respond. You stop explaining yourself, and others simply sense your power. Because the field no longer reads you as becoming, it recognizes you as being. And being is what bends timelines. This isn't a motivational phrase, it's quantum law. You don't need to control the outcome, you need to stabilize the state. And that state is emotional. In the final chapter, we'll bring it all into focus and remind you, the only delay between you and your desired life is emotional hesitation. The very moment you feel it as truth, consistently, deeply, unapologetically, you'll see the timeline already shifted. You won't chase it because you'll already exist within it. There's a point in every journey when you stop asking, when will it happen? And start living as if it already has. Not to trick the universe, but to remember the eternal truth. Nothing becomes real until you feel it real. This is the transition from becoming to being, from wishing to knowing, from chasing to embodying. Because now you realize what most people never truly understand. Reality doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your energetic identity. Who you are being day after day, especially in the quiet, unseen moments, that's what the field mirrors back. You don't need another epiphany. You don't need a new technique. You simply need to live as if the future has already arrived. Not as a show, but as permission. Permission to feel peace before your world validates it. Permission to feel love before anyone shows up. Permission to feel prosperous while your bank account still says, not yet. Because what you feel, you fuel, and what you embody, you eventually become. The field doesn't demand perfection, only alignment. When your mind, your emotions, and your energy stop clashing and start harmonizing around one identity, manifestation stops being a task. It becomes a natural collapse into the timeline that was always waiting for you. So ask yourself, can I trust the feeling more than the evidence? Can I remain in the state even when proof hasn't appeared? Can I remember my truth even when the world reflects my past? Because that is mastery. That is the real practice. And that's the frequency of the evolved you. And here's the most powerful part. The moment you stop insisting that the old version of you must disappear, the new one takes form. Not because something external shifted, but because you finally stopped resisting what's been inside all along. You stopped seeking. You stopped fixing. You stopped delaying your own embodiment. And instead you started living it. This is where everything leads, not to another method, but to a deeper stillness. A state of full alignment where you no longer chase the future because you already feel it now. And through that feeling, you collapse it into form. Not in concept, but in your energy, in your biology, in your timeline. This isn't imagination. This is quantum law in action. So if this truth resonates within you, if something deep down knows it's time to stop waiting and start living from alignment, then it's time to sustain this frequency. Not for a fleeting moment, but as a daily devotion, a lifestyle, a new energetic default. And to help you integrate this deeper, we've created something beyond mere information. A calibration tool, a vibrational ally for your evolution. Explore my ebook, Awaken Your Quantum Power, in the pinned comment. It's a guide designed to help you embody, stabilize, and live the frequency that manifests real change. Not because you need more knowledge, but because you're ready for deeper integration. This is where it all starts, not with proof but with feeling, not with arrival but with awareness. So live it now. not someday, not when it appears. No,